music world lost another legend. So we wanted to take a moment to pause and remember Robin Gibb.
His music will for many years continue to enrich the lives of others.
Till I finally died, we started the whole feel I'm going back to Massachusetts.
When Robin Gibb passed away in May 2012, the world mourned the quiet genius of the Bee Gees. His voice, that trembling emotional tenor that could slice straight through your heart, had fallen silent forever. But as the fans laid flowers outside his home and the headlines celebrated his music, something far darker was unfolding behind the scenes. Because when his will was read, there was a name missing. And that single omission would ignite one of the most painful chapters the Gibb family had ever known. A fight not just over money, but over love, loyalty, and the question everyone was too afraid to ask: who did Robin really love, and who did he leave behind? To the public, Robin Gibb was the sensitive twin, the soul of the Bee Gees, the poet who sang of heartbreak while his brothers chased the spotlight. But privately, Robin's life was a maze of contradictions: a devoted husband, yet a man haunted by guilt; a father of four, yet connected to two worlds that never fully accepted each other. His wife, Duena, had been by his side for more than 3 decades, a free-spirited artist and writer who tolerated Robin's eccentricities and even his public affairs. Together they lived in a grand Oxfordshire mansion filled with antiques, spiritual symbols, and stories that rarely reached the tabloids. But just a few miles away, another woman waited. Her name was Claire Yang, and for nearly a decade, she had been Robin's secret companion, the mother of his youngest child, Snow Evelyn Robin, Juliet Gibb. Robin had promised to take care of them. He told Claire he would never let his daughter go without, but promises spoken in private don't always survive the reading of a will. When the official will was revealed, signed just months before Robin's death, it was everything his wife Duena could have hoped for. She inherited the mansion, the art, and the royalties tied to Robin's lifetime of work. His children from the marriage, Spencer and Melissa, were provided for too. But Claire Yang's name wasn't there. Not hers, not Snow's, not even a hint that they existed. At first it seemed like a clerical oversight, a misunderstanding that would surely be corrected. But insiders close to the estate said Robin had intentionally excluded them. Why? Because Duena had insisted. At least that's what some family friends whispered, though Duena denied it completely. According to those close to her, Robin's will reflected his own wishes, written when he was frail but lucid, aware of the pain his double life had caused. He wanted peace in his final years, and perhaps this was his way of protecting the family he had publicly stood by. But to Claire, it felt like betrayal from beyond the grave. In the months before his death, Robin's health had deteriorated rapidly. Cancer had spread, and he spent his final days in quiet reflection, still speaking softly about his little girl, still assuring Claire that everything would be okay. He told her, "Don't worry, you'll both be looked after." He even hinted that a trust fund would ensure Snow's future. But when Robin died, no such trust appeared, no financial support was released, and Claire, once part of his hidden world, suddenly found herself outside the gates of the Gibb estate, with lawyers between her and the man she once loved. She wasn't after fame, she insisted, only fairness. But in the Gibb family's eyes, this was an attack on Robin's memory. And so began the battle, the widow versus the mistress, the legitimate heirs versus the forgotten daughter, the polished image versus the private truth. A fight that would stretch for years, spilling into the headlines Robin himself had always tried to avoid. As the tabloids circled and the family fractured, one question lingered over every headline: why would Robin Gibb, a man known for his generosity, turn his back on his own child? Some said it was guilt, others said it was fear, but those who knew him best believed there was more to the story, something he had confessed to his brother Barry in one of their last private conversations. And what Barry revealed later shocked even the closest members of the Gibb family. Before Robin Gibb's death, few people truly knew how complicated his personal world had become. Behind the polished interviews, the quiet charm, and the soft-spoken humor, there was a man at war with his own choices, torn between duty and desire, love and loyalty, guilt and devotion. Because while Robin appeared to live in harmony with his wife Duena, the truth was far less peaceful, and when he confided in Barry, his only surviving brother, What he said left Barry deeply unsettled. Robin and Barry had always shared a strange kind of telepathy. As twins, Robin and Maurice had been closer in youth, but after Maurice's death in 2003, Barry became Robin's anchor. They often spoke late into the night, reminiscing about the glory days, the stages, the fans, and the endless applause that could never quite fill the silence afterward. But in his final months, Robin's tone changed. He began speaking about his past with remorse, about the chaos I left behind. According to one insider close to the family, Robin confessed that he feared his legacy would be overshadowed by scandal. He didn't want to be remembered as a man who couldn't keep his family together. He reportedly told Barry, "I've done wrong by people I loved. I just hope I've done enough to make it right." Barry never repeated those words in public, but his tone during later interviews, his sudden emotional silences whenever Robin's name came up, seemed to say everything. The relationship between Robin and Claire Yang began in the late 1990s, when Claire worked as a housekeeper and assistant for the Gibb family. Over time, Robin and Claire grew close, too close. It wasn't just a brief affair, it was years of quiet companionship, emotional support, and a connection Robin couldn't walk away from. In 2008, their daughter, Snow Evelyn, was born, a secret that the media uncovered only years later. At first, Dewena accepted it, at least publicly. She called it part of our open marriage, a statement that made headlines around the world. But those close to her said she was devastated, humiliated, and heartbroken. Still, she stayed. She told friends she loved Robin, that their bond went beyond betrayal, that she understood his flaws. But deep down, the pain never left. And when Robin became ill, that old wound reopened, this time with lawyers watching. By 2010, Robin's health was declining. Cancer had returned, and his world grew smaller. Fewer tours, fewer interviews, more time spent reflecting on what he'd built and what he might lose. Claire and Snow visited him often, usually in private, sometimes in secrecy. To his wife and older children, these visits were acts of disrespect, a painful reminder that Robin had never truly left that other life behind. To Robin, they were acts of love, desperate attempts to make peace before time ran out. He reportedly told a friend, "I just want Snow to remember me kindly. She's too young to know the truth." But as he grew weaker, so did his resolve. He began avoiding difficult conversations, hoping time would smooth over what words could not. It didn't. When he died, two realities collided, the official family that grieved publicly and the hidden one that grieved in silence. In one of the last interviews Barry gave after Robin's passing, he broke down mid-sentence when asked about his brother's unfinished business. He said softly, "Robin was complicated. He had a lot of love to give, but not enough time to give it right." Some interpreted this as a poetic reflection. Others, especially those familiar with the estate, saw it as a subtle admission. Barry knew about Claire and Snow. Rumors later surfaced that Robin had written 2 wills, one older, one newer, and that the first version had included provisions for Snow. But when the later version became official, those clauses were gone. Did Robin make the change himself, out of guilt, or did someone influence him? No one could say for sure, but after his death, that mystery would become the spark that lit an all-out family war. According to sources close to Claire, a letter surfaced months after Robin's passing, written in his handwriting, addressed simply to Snow. It wasn't a legal document, it wasn't a contract, it was a father's apology. In it, he wrote, "One day you'll understand that love is not always simple. I wanted to do right by everyone, but I didn't know how. I hope you'll forgive me." Whether the letter was authentic remains uncertain. It was never produced in court, but the very existence of it, whispered about, never denied, was enough to push tensions past the breaking point. Inside the Oxfordshire home, where Robin's gold record still hung beside family portraits, the atmosphere had changed. Reporters camped outside the gates, lawyers came and went, and Dewena, once known for her calm spirituality, began to retreat from public view. Meanwhile, Claire filed a legal claim, not for herself, she said, but for Snow. Her daughter, she insisted, deserved to be recognized as Robin's child and provided for accordingly. What happened next would drag the Gibb name back into headlines, open old wounds, and nearly destroy what was left of the family bond Barry had fought so hard to preserve. Because as the case reached the courts, more secrets from Robin's private life began to surface, and some of them threatened to change how fans saw him forever. When Robin Gibb passed, the headlines spoke of peace, music, and legacy. But behind those comforting words, the truth was far from peaceful. What followed was a storm that no one in the Gibb family was prepared for, a battle over love, money, and the meaning of loyalty that would play out in tabloids, courtrooms, and living rooms for years. Because while Robin was gone, his absence spoke louder than any song he had ever written. In late 2013, Claire Yang filed a claim under the Inheritance Act, stating that Robin's estate, estimated at over £25 million, had failed to provide reasonable support for her and their daughter Snow. She didn't demand half nor even a large percentage. What she wanted, according to court records, was security, a modest trust, enough to ensure Snow's future education and well-being. To her, it wasn't about greed. To Duena, it was betrayal. Duena's side saw the move as an attack on Robin's final wishes, a reopening of old wounds that Robin had tried to close before his death. Her supporters claimed Claire had already received financial help when Snow was born, that Robin had quietly paid for housing and living expenses years earlier. But Claire's lawyers countered. Those were gifts, not legal provisions. And without written acknowledgement in the will, Snow was left with nothing. That simple, brutal truth became the center of the case. When news broke of Robin Gibb's secret daughter and the mistress suing the widow, the media frenzy was merciless. The headlines painted Claire as the intruder, the woman who dared challenge a grieving widow, but some fans saw her differently. Many remembered Robin as a family man who believed deeply in love and compassion. How could that same man abandon his own child? Even Barry Gibb, though careful with his words, hinted at discomfort with how things were being handled. During one interview, when asked about the family tensions, Barry sighed and said, "I wish things could have been done with more kindness." That line, short, quiet, but cutting, revealed more than any legal document ever could. During the proceedings, several private letters and communications surfaced, suggesting Robin had struggled deeply with guilt during his final years. In one note to his lawyer, he mentioned the complexity of providing for all without causing pain. His attorney later confirmed that Robin had debated setting up separate trusts, one for his children with Duena, another for Snow, but time, and perhaps illness, ran out before he finalized the arrangement. To Claire, that was proof enough that he intended to care for Snow. To Duena, it was hearsay, words written under emotional duress, not a binding commitment. Still, the tension grew unbearable. By 2015, the case reached its quiet conclusion. Claire Yang was awarded a financial settlement reportedly worth £4 million. The deal was confidential, but insiders confirmed it came directly from Robin's estate, negotiated to avoid a prolonged public trial. In the legal sense, the matter was over, but for the Gibb family, the damage was irreversible. Duena rarely spoke publicly afterward. She retreated to her art, her writing, and her small circle of friends. Claire remained silent, raising Snow away from the spotlight, declining interviews. Yet among those close to the family, the question lingered. Had justice truly been done, or had the man who sang about love left behind a legacy of heartbreak? Barry Gibb, the last surviving brother, carried the weight in silence. He had already watched Morris die suddenly in 2003, Andy decades earlier, and now Robin, the twin soul who had fought beside him for every hit, every heartbreak, every stage. In interviews years later, Barry said he no longer celebrated fame. He spoke about how it takes and takes until there's nothing left. When asked about Robin's passing, he would sometimes pause, then quietly add, "He was always searching for peace. I hope he's finally found it." Those who knew Barry said he struggled to watch the family disputes unfold. He wanted reconciliation, but by then too many wounds had been reopened, and when the press asked if he still spoke to Duena, he only said, "We're family. That doesn't always mean we're close." By the time the legal dust settled, Robin Gibb's story had become more than just a fight over a will. It was a lesson in how secrets, even those born out of love, can turn toxic once the truth is gone. The man who once sang "How Deep Is Your Love" had lived a life defined by that question.
And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love?
And died before he could truly answer it. His wife remained loyal to his memory. His mistress faded into quiet anonymity. His daughter, Snow, grew up with only photographs and stories. But for the fans, and for Barry, the hardest part was knowing that Robin's heart had been big enough to love them all, but not strong enough to keep them from breaking apart. And just when the world thought the story was over, another twist emerged. Because hidden in the archives of Robin's estate, long after the settlement, was a collection of unreleased letters, notebooks, and lyrics that revealed what Robin truly wanted in his final months, a truth not even his family had known. And when that truth came out, it changed everything. For years, the story of Robin Gibb's estate had seemed finished, a quiet settlement, a family scarred, and a legacy shadowed by controversy. But as time passed, whispers began to circulate again. Archivists working through Robin's personal belongings had uncovered something unexpected, a box filled with handwritten letters, lyric drafts, and personal notes from his final years. And what they revealed painted a very different picture of the man behind the music. It began when Robin's former assistant, helping to organize his studio archives for a planned biography, came across a sealed envelope labeled "Private for my family." Inside were pages written in Robin's unmistakable script, fragments of songs, reflections on mortality, and emotional letters addressed to his children, including one to Snow. The tone was heartbreakingly tender. He wrote about his fear of being remembered only for his mistakes, about how he had loved everyone differently, but no one less. He admitted that fame had been both his blessing and his punishment, that it had kept him busy enough to avoid facing what hurt most, and in one haunting line he confessed, "My greatest regret is leaving behind people who still need me." The letter ended with his signature and a line that fans later described as pure Robin Gibb poetry. "Music will outlive the noise. Love will outlive the music." It was the kind of sentiment only Robin could write, fragile, honest, and drenched in emotion. When Barry read the letters, he reportedly broke down. He said in a later interview that Robin had a heart too open for his own good, that he tried to fix everyone's pain without ever facing his own. Barry made a quiet decision. He reached out to Dwina, urging her to allow portions of Robin's unpublished notes to be included in a commemorative box set, not for profit, but as a tribute to the real man behind the legend. Dwina agreed. For the first time since Robin's death, the family seemed united, not over money, but over the music that had brought them together in the first place. Among the materials released in that collection were song fragments that spoke directly to Robin's hidden struggles. One untitled lyric read, "I built a house of harmony, but left my heart outside the door." Fans and critics alike interpreted it as a quiet confession, a final attempt to make peace through the only language Robin truly understood, song. By then, Snow Evelyn Robin Juliet Gibb was growing into a young woman, shy, intelligent, and musically gifted. Though raised largely away from the spotlight, she had inherited her father's delicate features and unmistakable melancholy. Sources close to the family said Barry and Dwina had both expressed a desire to meet her when she was ready, not for publicity, but to share stories of the man she never got to know. Barry, in particular, had spoken about wanting to complete the circle. He told one interviewer, "Families break, but love doesn't disappear. It just waits for time to soften the anger." And slowly over the years that softening began. In the end, Robin Gibb's will, the document that had once divided a family, came to symbolize something far more human. It was never just about inheritance. It was about how one man, burdened by the contradictions of fame and love, tried to do right by everyone, and failed, not for lack of heart, but for lack of time. To fans, Robin remains a symbol of emotional honesty. His voice, trembling with both power and fragility, carried more truth than any courtroom ever could. And though his life ended in conflict, his words in those final letters gave something far greater than money, closure. In 2020, during an emotional BBC interview, Barry Gibb was asked about his brothers, Andy, Morris, and Robin. He looked down, smiled faintly, and said, "I still talk to them. I always will." Then, after a long pause, he added softly, "Robin was the poet. He never stopped writing. Even when his body gave up, his heart didn't." When asked what he thought Robin would say now, seeing his family finally at peace, Barry smiled again and whispered he'd probably write a song about it. And just like that, with music, with forgiveness, with memory, the story that began with a lost will finally found its harmony. Today, Robin Gibb's music continues to echo across generations. Songs like Massachusetts,
Feel I'm going back to Massachusetts.
I Started a Joke, and For Whom the Bell Tolls, have outlived the headlines, reminding the world that behind every melody lies a story of love, regret, and redemption. His life may have been divided between two worlds, But his art belonged to everyone, and in that Robin achieved something even greater than wealth, immortality through song. Because in the end, no courtroom ruling, no scandal, no broken promise could silence the one truth Robin Gibb always believed in. Love is the only thing that lasts longer than fame,